Simone Sterling nervously adjusted her hair as she stared up at the departure board at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, ATL. The flight to Phuket was delayed by half an hour, but that didn't bother her. The main thing was that the surprise had to go perfectly. Ronnie, her husband, was due to celebrate his 45th birthday in 3 days, but she had decided to show up early. She imagined how thrilled he would be to see her and Aaliyah standing in the doorway of the rented villa. "Mom, are you sure Dad will be happy?" asked 15-year-old Aaliyah, not looking up from her laptop. The girl was surprisingly serious for her age, with a sharp mind and incredible programming skills. "Of course, baby," Simone smiled at her daughter. "Daddy will be ecstatic. He missed us so much when he left for this business trip." Aaliyah nodded, but something odd flickered in her eyes. Simone didn't notice. She was too caught up in the anticipation of their reunion. 18 years of marriage, and she still felt the same excitement before seeing Ronnie as a giddy teenager. Ronnie Sterling was a man who commanded attention, tall, athletically built, with piercing gray eyes and a charming smile. His luxury residential construction company, Sterling and Associates, had been thriving for 10 years. They built high-end custom homes for Atlanta families, and clients trusted Ronnie not only because he was a professional, but because he seemed like such a reliable family man. In interviews with local papers, he often spoke about the importance of family values. He'd show pictures of his wife and daughter, and talk about how he loved spending time with his loved ones. "Family is the foundation of everything," he would tell journalists. "Without a solid home life, you can't build a successful business. My wife Simone is my rock, and my daughter Aaliyah is the meaning of my life." Simone believed every single word. They had met at a contemporary art exhibition and started dating. Simone was studying literature, and Ronnie was already a successful engineer. After their wedding 18 years ago, Simone dedicated herself to their family. She gave birth to Aaliyah, managed the household, helped her husband with the business, checking paperwork and communicating with clients. "Attention, passengers on flight DL 242 to Phuket," boomed the announcement over the loudspeaker. "Boarding is now beginning." Simone took Aaliyah's hand, and they walked toward the gate. In her purse was Ronnie's gift, a costly Rolex Submariner watch. Simone had seen him eyeing it in a jewelry store window 2 months earlier. At the time, he sighed and said, "Maybe someday." She had spent $20,000 on the watch, nearly all of her personal savings, which she had been setting aside from household money for 3 years. But for her husband's happiness, she was willing to do anything. Aaliyah followed her mother in silence. In recent months, the girl had become even more reserved than usual. Simone attributed it to adolescence, but sometimes she caught strange, inquisitive looks from her daughter. Aaliyah seemed to be analyzing something, calculating, but she never shared her thoughts. The girl really was unusual. At 12, she was creating simple websites. By 13, she'd mastered the basics of programming. At 14, she began studying data analysis. Her teachers at the high school said Aaliyah had phenomenal abilities in math and computer science. She effortlessly solved problems that others struggled with, won all the coding competitions, and yet remained modest. She never tried to stand out among her classmates. The flight lasted an eternity, 12 hours with a layover in Doha. Aaliyah spent most of the time on her laptop, writing code and studying diagrams and graphs. Simone tried several times to look over her daughter's shoulder, but Aaliyah subtly turned the screen away so her mother couldn't see anything. "What are you working on, sweetie?" Simone asked. "Preparing a gift for Dad," Aaliyah replied, her eyes glued to the screen. "A surprise." "What kind of gift?" "You'll see, Mom. I think it'll be very educational." There was a coldness in her daughter's voice that made Simone uneasy, but the plane hit a patch of turbulence, and her thoughts shifted to something else. Simone slept, dreaming of how she would spend a week with her beloved husband on the tropical island. She pictured them walking on the beach, having candlelit dinners, and swimming in the ocean. The last time they had vacationed together was 2 years ago in Miami Beach. Since then, Ronnie had been constantly busy with work, traveling on business and meeting with clients. Once I finish this project, we'll definitely go somewhere, he promised. But new projects kept piling up. Mom, Aaliyah called softly as the plane began its descent over Phuket. Are you sure you know the villa address? Of course, honey. Dad sent photos and a detailed map, a beautiful spot right by the ocean. He said he rented it especially for our family vacation. Aaliyah pressed something on the keyboard again and slowly closed her laptop. On her face was a strange mix of determination and sadness. Mom, no matter what happens, please remember that I love you very much, she said unexpectedly. Aaliyah, those are such strange words. What's going to happen? Nothing, Mom, just... The taxi ride from the airport to the villa took about an hour. The driver, a smiling Thai man named Sonchai, talked in English about the local attractions, pointing out temples and markets. Simone admired the Thai scenery the whole way. The palm trees, the exotic architecture. The air was humid and warm, smelling of flowers and spices. This was her first visit to Asia, and everything seemed surprising and new. Aaliyah remained silent, periodically checking her phone. Some notifications flashed on the screen, but the girl quickly dismissed them. Ma'am, your husband is a very good man, Sonchai said in English. He's been renting this villa for a week. I brought him here. Aaliyah tensed and looked intently at the driver. Her face turned to stone. Simone didn't understand the English conversation, but she sensed her daughter was troubled. What did you talk about? She asked. Nothing important, Mom, Aaliyah replied. The driver was just telling me about local customs. The villa turned out to be even more beautiful than in the pictures. It was a 2-story building with white walls and a red-tiled roof, surrounded by tropical greenery. Palm trees, hibiscus, and orchids grew all around. A small pool sparkled in the sun, and the ocean was visible behind it. The place really was a paradise. Simone felt a surge of happiness that Ronnie had chosen such a romantic spot for their vacation. She imagined them having breakfast on the terrace, gazing at the ocean. Daddy's going to be so happy to see us, she whispered. Yes, Mom, Aaliyah replied softly. He'll definitely be surprised. They entered the cool foyer. The villa was tastefully furnished. Teak wood furniture, silk curtains, and local artwork. The scent of jasmine hung in the air, along with a faint smell of men's cologne that Simone recognized. It was Ronnie's favorite. On the coffee table were documents in English and Thai, the villa rental agreement, tourist brochures, and island maps. Next to them were 2 empty wine glasses and an empty bottle of Moet and Chandon French champagne. Looks like Dad had clients over here, Simone said, gathering the glasses. You know how he likes to impress his partners. Aaliyah said nothing, just pressed her lips together. Silence reigned in the house. All they could hear was the soft hum of the air conditioning and the sound of ocean waves outside the window. Simone walked up to the second floor where the master bedroom was located. Aaliyah followed, holding her phone tightly. On the staircase steps were women's high-heeled shoes, red stylish, size 7. Simone picked them up and examined them closely. The shoes were expensive, Italian, but she had never worn anything like them. She wore a size 9. That's strange, she murmured. Where did these women's shoes come from? Mom, Aaliyah said softly, maybe you shouldn't go up there. Why? What's wrong? I just think we should call Dad first and let him know we arrived. But Simone was already at the top of the stairs. In the hallway, there were more things, a silk women's blouse and men's jeans that she recognized as Ronnie's. Her heart began to pound faster. What was happening here? The door to the master bedroom was slightly ajar. Simone pushed it open and froze. On the huge, snow-white bed, Ronnie was asleep, his arms sprawled out. His torso was bare, his hair disheveled. And on the edge of the bed, wearing sea-green silk pajamas, sat a woman with dark, tousled hair. Simone knew her. She'd known her since childhood. It was her younger sister, Carissa. Time stood still. Simone felt the ground give way beneath her, the air leave her lungs. Her heart was racing, her head was buzzing, and her ears were ringing. 18 years of marriage, trust, love, shared plans, and dreams. Everything collapsed in a single second. And it wasn't with a stranger, but with her own sister. Carissa turned at the sound of footsteps and went white as a sheet. Her brown eyes, so similar to Simone's, widened in horror. "Sim," she whispered, completely lost. Ronnie woke up at this voice and sat up in bed. Seeing his wife, he opened his mouth but couldn't utter a word. His face was a mask of shock. "Mom, let's go," Aaliyah said softly, taking Simone's hand. "We don't have anything to do here anymore." Simone couldn't move. Her legs felt glued to the floor. Fragments of memories flashed through her mind. Carissa coming to visit, playing with Aaliyah, celebrating family holidays together. Ronnie joking with her, calling her little sis. Carissa comforting Simone when she complained about how busy her husband was. "Sim, this isn't what you think," Ronnie began, pulling the sheet up to cover himself. "We can explain everything." "Explain?" Simone's voice was hoarse. "What exactly can you explain? How my sister ended up in bed with my husband?" "Sim, I'm sorry," Carissa cried. "It just happened. We didn't plan it." "Just happened?" Simone felt fury roar inside her. "You flew to Thailand by chance? You ended up in this bed by chance?" "Mom," Aaliyah insisted, "we have to leave right now." Simone turned around and walked quickly toward the exit. Aaliyah ran after her. They left the villa, and Simone shakily called a taxi. "Hotel. Any hotel," she said brokenly to the driver. In the car, she broke down and wept. Aaliyah hugged her mother and stroked her hair without saying a word. Her face was stern and determined. When they arrived at the hotel and settled into the room, Simone still couldn't believe what had happened. She sat on the bed, staring into space, trying to comprehend that 18 years of her life had been a lie. The husband she trusted had betrayed her with her own sister. All their joint plans, dreams for the future, and memories were now poisoned by this discovery. Aaliyah sat beside her with her laptop, calmly working. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Windows filled with programs, graphs, and tables flashed on the screen. "Aaliyah, what did you mean when you said you had already punished Dad?" Simone asked, wiping her tears. Her daughter looked up from the screen. In her eyes was an adult determination that surprised her mother. The 15-year-old girl looked like an experienced investigator, ready to present her findings. "Mom, I've known about their relationship for a while," Aaliyah said softly. "Grandpa Paul taught me about programming and data analysis. For the last 2 months, I've been collecting evidence of Dad's infidelity." Simone sat up in bed, not believing what she was hearing. "You knew what?" "I noticed weird things about Dad and Aunt Carissa's behavior. He became secretive. She started avoiding our family gatherings. Plus, I accidentally saw suspicious messages a few times and overheard phone conversations." Aaliyah turned the laptop toward her mother. The screen showed a complex program with multiple graphs, maps, and diagrams. "Do you know how modern technology works? People constantly leave digital footprints on the internet. Every social media post, every photo, every check-in at a cafe or restaurant, it all creates a portrait of their life." "What are you getting at?" Aaliyah opened the first section of her analysis. "Mom, Grandpa taught me how to create programs to collect and analyze public information, legal programs that only study what people post in open access. And I analyzed Dad's and Aunt Carissa's digital activity over the last 4 months. A map of Atlanta appeared on the screen, marked with multiple colored dots. "See these red dots? Those are places Dad checked in or posted about on social media. The blue dots are where Aunt Carissa was, and the green dots are where they were at the same time." Simone stared at the map in horror. There were so many green dots. Restaurants, cafes, shopping centers, even the gym. Oh my God, they were constantly meeting up. "That's not all," Aaliyah continued, switching to the next graph. "Here's the time-based analysis of their internet activity. Dad claimed he was working late, but his last posts on social media weren't made from the office. And Aunt Carissa supposedly went to the gym, but her geolocation showed restaurants and cafes. Simone felt shame and hurt burn within her. It turned out that all of Atlanta could have seen her husband was cheating, and she hadn't noticed a thing. And here's the most interesting part. Aaliyah opened another window. Analysis of their social media interactions. They liked each other's posts an average of 2 minutes after publication. They commented with veiled hints. They posted photos of the exact same locations just a few minutes apart. And all of this was publicly accessible. Yes, Mom. They thought that if they didn't take selfies together, no one would figure it out. But digital forensics is an exact science. All their meetings, all their hints, the entire schedule, it can be reconstructed from digital crumbs. Aaliyah displayed several more graphs. One showed the frequency of their messages at different times of the day. Another, the correlation of their moods by the tone of their posts. A third, the statistics of their appearances in the same locations. Math doesn't lie, Mom. The probability of them meeting by chance is less than 0.001%. It's a statistically proven pattern. Simone shook her head. Her daughter had become a real detective, using technologies she never even suspected existed. Aaliyah, what are you going to do with this information? Her daughter opened another program, a system for creating presentations and mass email deployment. I created a detailed analytical report on their secret relationship, scientifically grounded with graphs, statistics, and maps. Tomorrow morning, this report will be sent to all their friends, colleagues, and acquaintances. Aaliyah, you can't! Mom, I'm not stealing anyone's information or hacking accounts. I'm just systematizing what they themselves published on the internet. It's like journalistic research, only using big data and machine learning. Simone was silent. Part of her was horrified by her daughter's plan, but another part, the one burning with offense and humiliation, understood the justice of this approach. How exactly will you do it? She asked. Aaliyah smiled the cold smile of an investigator. I have an automated distribution program. Tomorrow at 8 a.m. Atlanta time, when everyone checks their email before work, I will send the scientific analysis of their behavior to all their open friends' contacts on social media. And how did you get those contacts? Mom, friend lists on most social media platforms are open for viewing. I created a crawler program that collects this public information and forms databases. Everything is absolutely legal and ethical. Aaliyah showed her mother the final version of her report. It was a professionally crafted 30-page document titled Digital Analysis of Covert Social Connections, a Case Study in Familial Treachery. The introduction explained the research methodology. Then came sections on geolocation analysis, temporal activity correlation, social interaction analysis, communication tone, statistical conclusions. At the end were appendices with original data and programming code. This is a real scientific paper, Simone said in astonishment. Grandpa taught me that any serious claim must be backed by data. I'm not accusing Dad and Aunt Carissa of infidelity. I'm simply providing facts and allowing people to draw their own conclusions. Simone shook her head. Her 15-year-old daughter was planning a technological exposé with the cold calculation of a scientist. Aaliyah, are you sure? He's your father. Mom, the girl said seriously. Biological relation doesn't excuse betrayal. Ronnie Sterling made his choice when he started cheating on you with your sister. Now he'll face the consequences of his actions. Simone hugged her daughter. In that moment, she understood that Aaliyah hadn't been a child for a long time. The father's betrayal had forced her to mature early and become a strong, independent personality. What happens next? Simone asked. Next, we go back to Atlanta. You file for divorce and get everything you're entitled to by law. My report will be excellent evidence of infidelity for the court. And where will we live? Grandpa Paul invited us to Germany a long time ago. He moved there 6 months ago at the invitation of his old friend. Remember him telling us about it? Grandpa has a contact, Frederick Zimmerman. He's a widowed engineer at BMW. Grandpa says he's a very honorable person. Simone reflected. She did remember her father's stories about moving to Germany. Paul had received an invitation from his childhood friend, Frederick, with whom he had corresponded for many years. Frederick suggested he move to Munich and work as a consultant for German IT companies. "You've thought of everything," she said with admiration. "Grandpa didn't just teach me programming, Mom. He taught me strategic planning, systems analysis, and long-term forecasting. This situation requires a comprehensive solution." Simone's phone rang. Ronnie's name flashed on the screen. Aaliyah looked at her mother. "Don't answer yet. Let him worry and reflect on his actions." Simone declined the call. A minute later, a text message arrived. "Sim, please listen to me. This isn't what it looks like. We can talk everything through." "Classic manipulative tactic," Aaliyah commented. "It's not what it looks like. Interesting how he'll explain being in bed with your sister." Simone smiled for the first time in hours. Her daughter was right. What explanations could there be? Another message arrived from Ronnie. "Aaliyah, answer your father. We need to talk as a family." Aaliyah took her mother's phone and quickly typed a reply. "Data collected. Analysis complete. Results will be published tomorrow at 8 a.m. Atlanta time. Respectfully, your daughter analyst, Aaliyah." "Aaliyah!" Simone exclaimed. "What? I didn't lie. The results really will be published." Within minutes, the phone was flooded with calls from Ronnie, but they didn't answer. "Mom, go to sleep," Aaliyah said. "We have a very interesting day tomorrow, and I'll do a final verification of the distribution system in the meantime." Simone lay down but couldn't sleep. Her head spun with thoughts of betrayal, the future, and how to live now. Next to her, her daughter softly typed, preparing the technological revenge for the cheating husband and the treacherous sister. The tropical ocean roared outside the window, but Simone didn't hear it. She was thinking about how her life would change forever tomorrow. The morning in Atlanta was gray and rainy. Ronnie woke up in a hotel. After the argument with his wife, he didn't dare stay in the villa with Carissa. She went to her own hotel, and they agreed to meet in the morning to discuss how to deal with the crisis. At that moment, exactly at 7:30 a.m. Atlanta time, Aaliyah was sitting in the hotel room in Phuket in front of her laptop. Simone was sleeping under the effect of a tranquilizer. "The time has come," Aaliyah whispered and pressed the necessary button. The distribution was launched. The program started running. Lines with email addresses, delivery statuses, and counters of sent messages appeared on the screen. The first batch went to Ronnie's colleagues and business partners, 247 addresses. It was a detailed presentation titled Expertise Analysis of Covert Connections in a Business Environment. It included maps of Atlanta with marked meeting points, temporal activity graphs, and statistical tables. 5 minutes later, a similar but expanded presentation was sent to all of Carissa's acquaintances. 156 addresses. Aaliyah added extra sections to the main analysis: psychological behavioral patterns, sociometric analysis of communications, predictive model of relationship development. At exactly 8 o'clock, the third wave began. Emails were sent to family, friends, and relatives. 89 addresses received the full report with the conclusion: based on the analysis of 1,247 units of data collected from open sources during the period from March 15th to July 12th, the existence of systematic covert contacts between the research subjects is established. The signature on each email was strictly scientific. Independent research results of social connections. Methodology based on big data analysis. All raw data obtained from publicly accessible sources. Research conducted by A. Sterling, age 15, 10th grade student, digital forensics enthusiast. The reaction was immediate. Ronnie was having breakfast in the hotel restaurant, reading the news on his tablet, when his phone started ringing off the hook with calls and notifications. The first to call was his business partner and best friend, Sean Garrett. "Ronnie, did you see what your daughter sent?" Sean's voice was a mix of shock and admiration. "What happened?" "Check your email right now and prepare for a surprise." Ronnie opened his email and found a letter from Aaliyah with the subject, Research Results. Studying the presentation, He froze. His daughter had proven his infidelity with mathematical precision and scientific rigor, using only publicly available information. The document was designed like a real scientific paper, with an abstract introduction, methodology description, results, conclusions, and a list of sources used. Aaliyah even included a section, research limitations and recommendations for future study. Responses from recipients were already pouring in below the email. Ronnie, I'm impressed by your daughter's professionalism. Such a data analysis deserves to be published in a scientific journal, wrote a professor from Georgia Tech whom Ronnie collaborated with. Aaliyah is a genius, but you, Ronnie, should be ashamed, added an old friend. Poor Simone. Ronnie, how could you? His neighbor indignantly wrote. Excellent work. I will show this presentation to my students as a practical example of big data analysis, wrote the dean of the Faculty of Computer Science. In a panic, Ronnie called Carissa. Carissa, did you see it? I see it! She screamed hysterically into the phone. What is happening? How did she find all this out? Was she following us? Worse, she analyzed all our posts, photos, and comments on social media. Aaliyah knows how to code. She created some kind of analytical system. What? Your daughter, but she's only 15. She learned from her grandfather. Paul is a programmer with 40 years of experience. Carissa sobbed over the phone. Her own email was also flooded with messages. But unlike the business letters Ronnie was receiving, hers were from friends, relatives, and colleagues, and all expressed condemnation or astonishment. Carissa, I can't believe it. How could you betray your sister? Wrote her best friend. Aaliyah is brilliant to write such a scientific paper at 15, admired a cousin. Carissa, your behavior is incompatible with the image of our firm, her boss severely wrote. Ronnie, what are we going to do? I'm going to be fired today, and your clients will see this. Indeed, Ronnie's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Partners, clients, and employees were calling. His construction company primarily worked with family clients, building luxury homes for people who valued family status. And now, everyone saw scientifically proven facts that the company owner himself was systematically betraying his own family. Ronnie, said his biggest client, the Anderson family, who had ordered a home for $40 million. We are forced to terminate the contract. After studying your daughter's research, we cannot entrust the construction of a family home to a man who destroys his own family. But this is my private life. Ronnie, you yourself spoke in interviews about the importance of family values. We chose your company precisely for that, and now it turns out it was a lie. One after another, clients called and canceled services. By noon, Ronnie had lost orders totaling $110 million. But the financial side wasn't the worst part. It was the reaction of his social circle. Colleagues looked at him with a mixture of condemnation and admiration for his daughter's technological skills. Ronnie, your Aaliyah is simply a genius, they would say. What data analysis? But your behavior... Carissa, who had returned to Atlanta, meanwhile, was sitting in her office at the car dealership, trying to pretend nothing had happened. But colleagues looked at her with disapproval, and customers who recognized her from the presentation photo refused to work with her. During the lunch break, her boss called her into his office. Carissa, he said, holding up a printed copy of Aaliyah's presentation, your behavior is incompatible with the image of our company. We sell family cars to family people, and you destroy families. I'm sorry, but here's your final check. Goodbye. By evening, Aaliyah's presentation had spread all over the internet. It was reposted on social media, discussed in forums, and analyzed in tech blogs. The hashtag #HadDigitalJustice became the trending topic of the day. Look at how it should be done. She didn't hack anyone. She didn't steal anything. She just analyzed open information, users wrote. This is the future. Technology serving justice. 15 years old and already such an analyst. These kids should be admitted to the best tech universities without exams. Poor mom, but what a smart daughter. Ronnie tried to refute the analysis by hiring an IT consultant, but the specialist just shrugged. Ronnie, The methodology is impeccable. The data is verifiable. The statistics are irrefutable. Your daughter's work is at the PhD thesis level. It's impossible to refute this. You can only acknowledge the accuracy of the analysis. By the end of the day, the story reached national news. Journalists contacted data analysis experts who confirmed the extremely high professional level of Aaliyah's work. This is an outstanding example of applying digital forensics to domestic situations, declared the lead data scientist at a major university. The girl used advanced methods applied in serious scientific research. "Dad?" a calm child's voice sounded when Ronnie answered the call. "Aaliyah, baby girl, what have you done?" "I conducted a scientific investigation and shared the results with interested parties," the girl said coldly. "You and Aunt Carissa betrayed Mom, me, and our family. Now society is informed of this based on objective data." "Aaliyah, I can explain everything." "There's nothing to explain. Numbers don't lie. Facts speak for themselves. Mom and I are flying back to Atlanta tomorrow. We'll see you in court, where my analysis will become material evidence. But you are my daughter. I am the daughter of the woman you betrayed. Biological relation does not cancel moral responsibility. Goodbye, Mr. Sterling." And she hung up, leaving her father in complete despair before the digital justice orchestrated by his own 15-year-old daughter. Returning to Atlanta 2 days later, Simone felt like she was in a different world. The story of Aaliyah's digital exposé had become the main topic of discussion, not only in their circle, but far beyond. Journalists awaited them at ATL. Someone photographed Aaliyah with her laptop, and that photo became a symbol of the new generation, child prodigies who know how to defend justice with the help of technology. "Aaliyah, tell us how you learned such complex data analysis," reporters asked. "My grandpa Paul Daniels taught me the fundamentals, but the main thing is the desire to find the truth," the girl answered calmly. "Technology must serve justice." Simone immediately contacted a lawyer. Elaine Wallace, a family law specialist with 20 years of experience, agreed to represent her interests after studying the Sterling case, as it was already called in legal circles. "You have a unique situation," Elaine said, carefully reviewing Aaliyah's presentation. "Your husband's infidelity is proven using methods typically used in corporate and scientific investigations. This data analysis can be used as material evidence in court. And what about Aaliyah? She collected information about people. She exclusively analyzed publicly available data using her own programs and scientific methods. This is absolutely legal. Furthermore, her work has received expert recognition. A professor from Georgia Tech's Cybernetics Institute has already proposed including her case in the curriculum." Indeed, the story of the Sterling family was discussed far beyond Atlanta. Aaliyah was called a brilliant young researcher, a symbol of the digital generation and the future of data science. Memes appeared on the internet with her photo and captions like, "Don't mess with a programmer's granddaughter," and "Big data for family values." Major technical universities in the country sent Aaliyah invitations to summer science schools. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, offered her a spot in a special program for gifted children. But most importantly, the story became an example of how modern technology can serve to restore justice in personal relationships. Ronnie tried to meet with his wife and daughter, but they refused contact. His business was crumbling before his eyes. Clients were massively canceling services. Partners were breaking contracts. His reputation was destroyed, not by gossip or rumors, but by scientifically substantiated facts that were impossible to refute. How can we trust a man who destroyed his own family to build a family home? Former clients wrote in reviews. It was especially painful for Ronnie that many admired his daughter's talents while simultaneously condemning his behavior. Aaliyah is the pride of America, but the father? Such comments were everywhere. Carissa found herself in an even more complicated situation. After being fired, she couldn't find a new job. The story of her infidelity, confirmed by digital analysis, became known to every staffing agency in the city. HR managers recognized her from Aaliyah's presentation photo. "Excuse me, but we can't hire a person with that reputation," they would tell her in interviews. "Our company values its image." Friends drifted away. Relatives condemned her. Even her social media profile became a subject of study. People analyzed her old posts, trying to find additional confirmation of Aaliyah's conclusions. The most difficult situation was for the girl's mother, Valerie. The 60-year-old woman called both daughters to her small apartment a week after their return from Phuket. "How could you do this to Sim?" the older woman cried. "Simone, you are a wife and mother. And you, Carissa, how dare you betray your sister?" Carissa sat with her head down, silent. Simone held herself with dignity, but it was clear that what had happened had taken a toll. "Mom, I'm not to blame for anything. They betrayed me," Simone said calmly. "But the scandal is all over the country. Aaliyah disgraced her father in front of the whole world." "Aaliyah simply analyzed public information and shared scientific facts," Simone responded firmly. "And I am grateful to her for the truth. It's better to know the bitter truth than to live a sweet lie." "And now what? How will you live?" "We'll start a new life, Mom. An honest life." Valerie looked at her younger daughter. "And you, Carissa, what do you say?" Carissa looked up, eyes tear-filled. "I don't know how it happened, Mom. Ronnie was so convincing. He said he didn't love Sim, that they only lived together for Aaliyah. I believed him. I was so foolish." "You're not foolish, Carissa," Simone said unexpectedly. "You're young and inexperienced. Ronnie is a grown man. He misled you, but that didn't excuse the betrayal." Meanwhile, Ronnie went between lawyers, trying to salvage the situation somehow, but the jurists only shrugged. Technically, Aaliyah hadn't broken any laws. Moreover, her methods were so professional that several law firms had already approached her with collaboration proposals. "Your daughter is a phenomenon," said one of Atlanta's top lawyers. "She conducted an investigation on the level of international detective agencies. Refuting her conclusions is impossible. The only thing left is to acknowledge their accuracy." Carissa also turned to lawyers, but the response was the same. Furthermore, several experts stated that Aaliyah's work could serve as the basis for a thesis on digital forensics. Local and national media continued to cover the story. Journalists wrote about the Generation Z digital generation that knows how to defend justice and how modern technologies are changing approaches to family conflict. They invited Aaliyah to several television shows, but she politely declined. "I'm not seeking fame," she said in a written comment. "My goal was to restore justice for Mom. The goal has been achieved. Now we want to live peacefully." Ronnie and Carissa became true social pariahs in their circles. They were pointed at in restaurants. Salespeople recognized them in stores from the presentation photo. Old acquaintances crossed the street to avoid them. An especially comical situation happened with Ronnie at the Gold's Gym, where he had worked out for 5 years. When the trainer saw him, he announced to the entire gym, "Attention, a real celebrity is with us today, Ronnie Sterling, the one whose infidelity was proven by his genius daughter using big data analysis. Let's give him an ovation for his involuntary contribution to the development of digital science." The entire gym laughed and applauded. Someone yelled, "Where's your daughter? We want to meet the young genius." Ronnie ran out of there amidst the mocking comments and never returned to that gym. Carissa faced similar humiliation at the Aura Salon, where she was a regular client. The manicurist, recognizing her, loudly told her colleagues, "Girls, look, this is that Carissa, the heroine of her niece's scientific investigation. Maybe we should also study data analysis to check our clients for family scandals." All the salon visitors turned and began to examine Carissa with curiosity. Like an exhibit in a museum, several women recognized her and started whispering among themselves, "Yes, that's her. I saw her photo in that presentation. How could she betray her sister? But that little girl is smart, a real detective." Carissa fled the salon without waiting for her service and never went back. But the most terrible thing wasn't the public condemnation. It was that her relationship with Ronnie also fractured. Under the pressure of the scandal and the collapse of their routine lives, they began to blame each other. "This was all your idea," Carissa yelled during one of their meetings. "You suggested going to Phuket. You said everything would be secret." "And who agreed?" Ronnie retorted. "Who was the first to flirt on social media, leaving all those comments that Aaliyah later analyzed? You said you didn't love Sim, and you said her correctness irritated you. We promised to be careful, and we were careful. Who could have known that a 15-year-old girl would turn out to be a digital forensics specialist?" Their affair, built on betrayal and lies, didn't withstand the first serious test. They realized they didn't really love each other. They were only united by the forbidden nature of the relationship, the adrenaline of deceit, and the novelty of the feelings. When those illusions crumbled under the weight of the consequences, it turned out they had nothing left to say to each other. Ronnie saw Carissa as the cause of his business's downfall, and Carissa blamed him for the destruction of her reputation and career. A month after returning from Phuket, they stopped communicating. Ronnie focused on trying to save the remnants of his business, and Carissa looked for work in other cities where she wasn't known. But the internet never forgets. Aaliyah's presentation became a classic example of applying data analysis to personal relationships. It was studied in universities, cited in scientific papers, and used as a case study in digital ethics courses. The story of the Sterling family entered textbooks as an example of how modern technologies changed traditional notions of privacy and justice. The divorce proceedings began a month after returning from Phuket. It was fast and painful for Ronnie, but legally fair. The judge of the Fulton County Superior Court, Judge Linda Castro, carefully studied all the case materials, including Aaliyah's famous presentation. "This is one of the most unusual cases in my practice," she declared at the first hearing. "The infidelity of one spouse is proven using methods typically employed in scientific investigations. The court recognizes this research as admissible evidence, as it relies exclusively on publicly available information. Public opinion, scientifically proven infidelity, and a minor daughter, everything was against Ronnie. His lawyer tried to challenge Aaliyah's methods, but the expert opinion confirmed the impeccability of her work. Considering the nature of the defendant's infidelity, confirmed by digital analysis data," the judge announced at the final session, "the court awards the plaintiff one-half of the jointly acquired property, including the apartment in downtown Atlanta, the house in Sandy Springs, and 50% of the shares in the Sterling and Associates Construction Company, plus child support for the minor daughter." Ronnie sat gloomy and dejected. In 3 months, he had transformed from a successful entrepreneur into a pariah, having lost his family and a large portion of his fortune. After the hearing, he tried to approach his daughter in the courthouse hallway. "Aaliyah, can I talk to you?" The girl, who had matured even more in these months and become more self-assured, looked at him with the calm, inquisitive gaze of a researcher. "We have nothing to discuss, Mr. Sterling." "Aaliyah, I know I messed up, but—" "You didn't simply mess up. You committed a systemic error that led to the collapse of the family structure. You betrayed Mom, who trusted you. You forced me, at age 15, to take up digital forensics instead of studying for exams. I can fix it." "Some systems cannot be restored after critical failure," Aaliyah replied coldly, using computer terminology. "Trust is a database that is impossible to recover after total damage." Simone took her daughter's hand. "Let's go, Aaliyah. We need to collect the documents and prepare for our new life." They turned and walked away, leaving Ronnie alone in the courthouse hallway, where not long ago he had felt like a confident and successful man. That same evening, Simone talked on the phone with her father in Germany. "Dad, the divorce is final. We're ready to move." "Wonderful, honey," Paul said happily from his new home outside Munich. "Frederick is really looking forward to meeting you both. He's prepared separate rooms. He's arranged an internship for Aaliyah at the BMW Research Center. He says such talents should be developed in the best European environment." Simone smiled. In recent months, she had thought a lot about the future. Starting a new life at 38 in another country was scary, but it was also exciting, especially considering she now had sufficient means for a comfortable move. Frederick Zimmerman was her father's old friend, a man in his 50s, widowed for 3 years, and working as a principal security engineer at BMW. According to Paul, he was a kind and honorable person who had always been interested in Spanish culture and literature. He spoke Spanish fluently, read Spanish classics, and studied the history of Spain. "Aaliyah, you don't mind the move?" Simone asked her daughter. "Mom, after what happened, I have nothing to do here. Everyone at school, on the street, in the stores, they all know our story. Some admire my tech skills, others condemn me for destroying the family. It's better to start with a clean slate in a place where they value a scientific approach to life. And your research? Oh, this is just the beginning." Aaliyah's eyes lit up. "Grandpa promised to introduce me to leading German data analysis specialists. The culture of scientific research is very advanced in Germany. I'll study machine learning, artificial intelligence, and the creation of ethical algorithms. Who knows, maybe I'll become a real scientist and help people solve complex problems." Simone hugged her daughter. Aaliyah surprised her every day. At such a young age, she had shown analytical strength and strategic thinking that would be impossible for many adult specialists. The sale of the properties took a month. The apartment in downtown Atlanta that Simone was awarded by the court sold for $40 million. The house in Sandy Springs brought in another $20 million. Furthermore, the share in the business which Ronnie's business partner bought added another $35 million. In total, Simone received a sum that ensured a prosperous life in Germany and excellent education for Aaliyah. Ronnie tried to contact them before they left, but Simone changed her phone number and blocked all his contacts. She no longer wanted to hear justifications or promises. Carissa also called through mutual acquaintances, begging for forgiveness and a meeting. But Simone was unyielding. Forgiving her sister's betrayal was harder than her husband's infidelity. "Mom, do you think we're doing the right thing?" Aaliyah asked on their last night before leaving, as they sat in the empty apartment among their packed suitcases. "You know, honey, sometimes you have to have the courage to radically change your life. Your grandpa always said, 'Life is too short to waste it on those who don't value you.'" "And you don't regret that I published the analysis results?" Simone reflected. At first, she was shocked by the scale of the consequences. But later I understood. If it weren't for you, I would have lived for more years in deceit. You saved me from a false life using your mind and modern technologies. Grandpa said that the most important thing in scientific work is honesty and objectivity. If the data shows a problem, you have to solve it, not ignore it. And you solved our family's problem. I identified a hidden error in the system and eliminated it, Aaliyah replied seriously. Now we will live in a system based on honest data. Simone laughed. Her daughter always knew how to find accurate technical analogies for life situations. They barely slept on their last night in Atlanta. Simone reviewed photos, documents, and things. 18 years of shared life that fit into a few boxes. Everything else proved unnecessary in the new life. Aaliyah worked on her computer, preparing a new research project for the German university. She planned to create an ethical data analysis system to prevent family conflicts. Imagine, Mom, she said, you can create an algorithm that analyzes people's compatibility before they get married. Not for spying, but for better mutual understanding. This won't be an invasion of privacy. On the contrary, it will help people be more honest with each other. If partners know their differences in values, goals, and interests beforehand, they can discuss them and make conscious decisions. At ATL, they didn't look back. Ronnie did not prevent his daughter's departure from the country. A new life awaited them in Germany with Paul and his friend Frederick. Left behind were the betrayal, the pain, the shattered illusions, and the triumph of justice achieved with the help of science and technology. The plane landed at Munich Airport on a sunny September morning. Simone looked out the window at the tidy German fields, organized highways, and clean cities, thinking that this was precisely where her new life would begin. Paul met them in the arrivals hall with a broad smile and a huge bouquet of flowers. Next to him stood a tall man in his 50s with kind blue eyes, a neatly trimmed gray beard, and a smile that immediately inspired trust. "Simone, Aaliyah, welcome to Germany," her grandfather hugged them. "And this is Frederick Zimmerman, my best friend, and now your friend too." Frederick gallantly kissed Simone's hand and gave Aaliyah a fatherly hug. "Welcome to our home," he said in good Spanish with a slight German accent. "I'm so glad to meet Paul's family, especially the young genius everyone already knows about." Aaliyah looked at him, surprised. "Everyone?" "Yes, honey. Your work has become a classic example of applying data analysis. They write about it in German scientific journals. Students at technical universities study it. You're famous." The house outside Munich, in the quiet district of Bogenhausen, turned out to be a spacious, two-story structure in traditional Bavarian style, with white walls, wooden balconies, and a red-tiled roof. A well-kept garden grew all around, with apple trees, roses, and neat vegetable beds. "This is our house," Paul said. "Frederick graciously agreed for us all to live here together. It has 5 bedrooms, and he's lived alone since his wife passed away." "This house is too big for one person," Frederick added. "And now there will be a real family here. That's good." Aaliyah was given a spacious room on the second floor with a garden view. To her surprise, the room was equipped like a real research lab. A new computer with 2 monitors, tablets, and special equipment for data analysis and machine learning. "Grandpa, this is a whole scientific station," the girl exclaimed. "Frederick put a lot of effort into it," Paul smiled. "He's a BMW engineer. He understands technology. He said a talent like yours needs to be developed in the best conditions." "I contacted colleagues at the BMW Research Center," Frederick added. "They're ready to offer you an internship. Part-time, of course, so it doesn't interfere with your studies, but you'll be able to work on real projects with real scientists." Simone got a beautiful room with a view of the foothills of the Alps, visible in the distance. The room was tastefully furnished with antique furniture, pictures of Bavarian landscapes, and a large window with flowers on the sill. "Is this temporary?" she asked Frederick. "This is your home, Simone," he replied seriously. "For as long as you want to stay here. Paul told me what you went through. You deserve peace and happiness." The first few weeks in Germany flew by like a fairy tale. Simone enrolled in intensive German courses at the local language school for immigrants. The teacher, Frau Müller, was impressed by her abilities. "You have an excellent foundation," she said. "You're clearly an educated person. In half a year, you'll be speaking like a German." Simone also began studying the peculiarities of German culture, traditions, and laws. Frederick patiently explained the subtleties of local life, took her around the area, and introduced her to neighbors. In Germany, they highly value order, punctuality, and honesty, he explained. "Here, you can build a stable and predictable life. That's what you need after all the turmoil." Aaliyah immersed herself in the study of new technologies. Her grandfather introduced her to local data specialists working at large IT companies and research centers. The girl quickly mastered new methods of information analysis and began working on projects that seemed futuristic. "Aaliyah," Dr. Klaus Weber, head of the Artificial Intelligence Department at BMW, once said, "You're working at the level of our best PhD candidates. At your age, this is simply incredible." "I want to create technologies that help people," Aaliyah replied. "My first project showed me what power data holds. This power must be used for good." Frederick often talked with Simone in the evenings when they strolled in the garden or sat on the terrace with tea. He talked about his work and life in Germany and asked about Atlanta. Gradually, Simone realized that before her was an amazing man, intelligent, kind, with a keen sense of humor and deep inner culture. "Simone," he said one evening as they admired the sunset, "I'd like to invite you out to dinner, just the 2 of us." Simone was flustered. After the divorce, she wasn't ready for romantic relationships yet. "Frederick, I appreciate everything so much, but I understand," he smiled gently. "Just as friends, with no obligations. I enjoy your company. and I'd like to get to know you better." The dinner at a cozy Bavarian restaurant went wonderfully. Frederick talked about his work on car safety systems, projects to create autonomous vehicles, and how technology is changing the world. Simone shared memories of Atlanta, her life, and plans for the future. "Do you miss your wife?" Simone asked carefully. "I do miss her," Frederick answered honestly. "Greta was a wonderful woman. We lived together for 22 years, but she died of cancer 3 years ago. But I understand that life goes on. Greta wouldn't want me to wallow in sadness." "How did you cope with the loss?" "Work helped, and friends, especially your father. Paul told me so much about you and Aaliyah. His stories about your family and the importance of close people helped me understand that loneliness is not the answer." Meanwhile, news arrived from America that Aaliyah followed through special internet monitoring programs. Ronnie was finally ruined. Without major clients, his construction company went bankrupt 6 months after the scandal. He sold the remnants of his property, paid off debts, and moved to Jacksonville, Florida, where he got a job as an ordinary foreman on a construction site. His story was so well known that finding a job in his specialty in Atlanta proved impossible. Carissa also left the capital. She moved to a small town in Savannah, Georgia, where she found work as a salesperson in an electronics store. She rented a 1-bedroom apartment on the outskirts and tried to forget the past, but the internet doesn't forget. Sometimes, new acquaintances recognized her from the same presentation that was still used as an example in university courses. "Mom, don't you pity them?" Aaliyah asked when they discussed the latest news during a family dinner. "You know, honey, I pity them as people who made a mistake," Simone replied, "but they chose their own path. In life, every action has consequences." "Grandpa says there's a law in programming. Garbage in, garbage out," Aaliyah added. "If you input lies and betrayal into the system, you get a corresponding bad output." "Exactly. And they got the logical result of the justice algorithm's work." Frederick listened to the conversation with interest. "Aaliyah, you reason like a true philosopher," he said. By the end of their first year in Germany, Simone spoke German fluently, obtained a residence permit, and found work as a translator for a large tourist company. Her duties included accompanying Spanish-speaking tourists around Bavaria, translating documents, and organizing cultural programs. The job was fascinating. Simone traveled to King Ludwig II's castles, led tours of breweries, and talked about the history of Munich. Her colleagues were friendly. The management valued her professionalism and knowledge of Spanish culture. "Simone brings us many new clients," the company director, Herr Baumann, would say. "Spanish tourists trust her. They feel comfortable." Frederick became her best friend and mentor in German life. He patiently helped with bureaucratic issues, explained the intricacies of the local mentality, and introduced Bavarian traditions. On weekends, they often went on excursions to Neuschwanstein Castle, Lake Chiemsee, and the Alps. "Simone," he said one evening when they were sitting in the garden under the stars after returning from a trip to Salzburg, "I want to confess something to you." "What is it?" "I've fallen in love with you. I know it's too early to talk about this, but I can't keep quiet any longer." Simone felt her heart quicken. She too had grown fond of this kind and honest man who had surrounded her family with care and warmth over the past year. "Frederick, don't answer now," he said softly. "Just know that I'm willing to wait as long as necessary. You've had a difficult life. You need time." "And your wife, Greta?" "Greta was part of my past, a wonderful part that I will never forget. But you are my present, and I hope my future." That night, Simone couldn't sleep for a long time. For the first time in many months, she was thinking not about past hurts, but about the possibility of new happiness. Another year passed. Aaliyah became a true expert in the field of ethical data analysis and machine learning. At 16, she was already participating in serious research projects. She received grants from European scientific funds. She spoke at international conferences. "Mom," she said one day during breakfast, I've been offered an internship at Stanford University in California. It's one of the best technical universities in the world. They're creating an ethical artificial intelligence lab. That's wonderful, honey, Simone rejoiced. I'm so proud of you. Do you know what's the most interesting part? My story with Dad is being studied as a classic example of responsible technology application. Professor Mueller says, I showed how data analysis can be used to restore justice without violating laws and ethical principles. And a journalist wrote to me, Aaliyah continued. He wants to do a big report on how teenagers are using technology to solve family problems. He says such stories are becoming more common. And what did you say? That I'm ready to give an interview, but only if the material is dedicated to the ethical aspects of technology application, not the sensational details of our family drama. Simone was amazed by her daughter's wisdom. Aaliyah reasoned like an experienced scientist, understanding the responsibility that came with her knowledge and experience. The relationship with Frederick developed slowly and gently. He didn't rush things, didn't pressure her. He was just there, reliable, understanding, and caring. Gradually, Simone realized she had fallen in love with this patient and noble man. The decisive moment came in winter when Simone caught the flu. Frederick looked after her with such tenderness and care that she finally understood. This was true love, based on mutual respect and understanding. Dad, she told her father one evening when they were sitting in his office, I'm thinking of marrying Frederick. Daughter, I was only hoping for this. Frederick is a wonderful person. He will take care of you and cherish you. And most importantly, he understands what it means to be honest with loved ones. And how will Aaliyah react? Ask her yourself, but I think she'll only be happy. The conversation with her daughter was easy and natural. Mom, I'm so happy. Aaliyah hugged her mother. Frederick is great. He's kind, smart, honest, and he loves you. You can see it in how he looks at you. You don't object? On the contrary, I'll have a stepfather who will never betray me, who understands the importance of science and ethics, and with whom I can discuss complex artificial intelligence issues over family dinner. You don't miss America? You know, Mom, home isn't a place on the map. Home is the people who love and understand you. Here we have Grandpa and Frederick and opportunities for growth. This is our home. Frederick proposed on the second anniversary of their life in Germany. He took Simone to the mountains, to a small 17th century church on an alpine slope, which offered a breathtaking view of the valley. Simone, he said, standing before the altar, you changed my life. You showed me that I can love again, that I can be happy. Will you be my wife? The ring was simple and elegant, white gold with a small diamond. Simone cried tears of happiness, saying, Yes. The wedding was modest but very warm. It took place in May in their garden. Only the closest people attended, Paul, Aaliyah, some of Frederick's friends, and Simone's colleagues. Aaliyah rejoiced for her mother and offered a toast that surprised everyone present. Mom and Frederick, your love is proof that after a systemic failure, you can create a new, more perfect life program. You showed that honesty and trust are the foundation of any stable relationship. The newlyweds spent their honeymoon in Italy. Frederick showed his wife Venice, Rome, and Florence. For the first time, Simone felt what it meant to be truly happy in a marriage, when your partner loves you for who you are, when there's no need to hide anything or pretend. Thank you for showing me what true love should look like, Simone, Frederick said one evening as they walked across the Rialto Bridge in Venice. It was you who taught me to open my heart again. After Greta's death, I thought I could never love again. But you and Aaliyah brought back my faith in family. Meanwhile, news continued to arrive sporadically from America. Ronnie moved from city to city, trying to find his place in life, but his reputation followed him. The story of the analytical expose had become legendary. It was discussed in the IT community, studied in universities, and used as a case study in digital ethics courses. Carissa found a job in a small town. She lived quietly and withdrawnly. She tried to contact Simone several times through social media, asking for forgiveness, but Simone did not reply. One autumn evening, Aaliyah approached her mother with an unusual proposal. "Mom, aren't you going to forgive Aunt Carissa?" "Why do you ask that?" "Well, look, we're happy. We have a wonderful family, a great life, and interesting work. You married an amazing person. Maybe it's worth letting go of old grudges." Simone reflected. Indeed, why waste emotional energy on anger when her life had worked out so wonderfully? "And will you forgive Dad?" she asked her daughter. "No," Aaliyah said firmly. Aunt Carissa was young, inexperienced, and misled by an older, more influential man. But Dad was the head of the family who bore responsibility for all of us. His betrayal is a high-level, systemic error that cannot be restored. Simone understood her daughter's logic. Carissa was the younger sister who had always been a bit naive and gullible, and Ronnie was the man she had entrusted her entire life and her daughter's life to. A few days later, Simone wrote a short letter to her sister without excessive emotion. "Carissa, I forgive you not because you deserve it, but because I don't want to spend any more emotional resources on negative feelings. I wish you find your happiness and stop betraying others. Be honest with yourself and those around you. Love, Sim." The reply arrived a week later. Carissa wrote a long letter full of remorse about how she had realized her mistake, how she had changed, and how grateful she was for the forgiveness. "Aaliyah taught me the most important lesson in life," she wrote, "that in the age of technology, lies and betrayal will inevitably be exposed. Now I live honestly. I work with children at the local community center. I'm trying to atone for my guilt with good deeds." "Do you think she really changed?" Aaliyah asked. "I don't know," Simone replied. "I have more important tasks. Family, work, happiness. Focus on the right things." "Agreed," her daughter said. Frederick listened to the conversation and smiled. He was getting used to the fact that even emotional issues in his family were discussed from a scientific perspective, but at the same time, with great warmth and understanding. Aaliyah finished high school and enrolled at the Technical University of Munich in the Faculty of Computer Science, specializing in ethical artificial intelligence. At 18, she was already known in the international IT community as an expert in the responsible application of data analysis technologies. "Mom," she said before the start of the new academic year, "I've been offered a partnership in a European project. We'll be creating standards for the ethical use of artificial intelligence in social research." "That's a huge responsibility for your age," Simone said. "Age is just a number, Mom. Experience and understanding of consequences are what matter, and I have a case study that is being studied at all European universities." Frederick, meanwhile, was promoted at BMW and now headed the Department of Development of Security Systems for Autonomous Vehicles. He often consulted with Aaliyah on issues of the ethical application of machine learning algorithms. "Your daughter is brilliant," he told Simone during a family dinner. "At her age, I only dreamed of entering university, and she is already advising major corporations on digital ethics issues." "The main thing is that all this doesn't go to her head," Simone worried. "Don't worry," Frederick smiled. "Aaliyah has a very healthy relationship with her fame. Yesterday, I heard her explain to a journalist that her goal isn't fame, but creating technologies that make the world more honest and just." The family's life was peaceful and happy. Simone worked at the tourist company, studied German history and culture, and traveled through Europe with her husband. Frederick proved to be a wonderful life partner, reliable, loving, understanding, and someone with whom she could discuss everything. On weekends, they often went to Alpine Lakes, visited museums, and went to the theater. Frederick introduced Simone to German opera, and she introduced him to Spanish literature. In the evenings, they read Cervantes and Lorca aloud, discussing differences in mentality and culture. One day, Aaliyah came home with an unusual proposal. "Mom, Frederick, I have an idea for a new project," she said during dinner. Remember my story with the analysis of Dad and Aunt Carissa's behavior? Of course, Frederick replied. Your case is studied at all technical universities in Europe. I plan to create a platform to strengthen family relationships with the help of technology, but not for spying or control, but for better mutual understanding. What do you have in mind? Simone was interested. Imagine an app that helps couples better understand each other's needs, interests, and goals. People voluntarily fill out surveys about their values, plans, and dreams. The algorithm analyzes compatibility and gives recommendations. Aaliyah showed the model of her app on her tablet. For example, the system can show that partners have different ideas about financial planning or raising children. This will help them discuss important issues before they become sources of conflict. What about privacy? Frederick asked, ever the security engineer. All data processing happens locally on user devices. No personal information is transmitted to servers. Plus, complete transparency of algorithms. People understand how the system arrives at its conclusions. Interesting concept, Frederick said. It's like a digital family psychologist. Exactly. But based on science, not subjective opinions, and accessible to everyone, not just those who can afford an expensive specialist. They discussed the idea for a long time. In the end, Aaliyah decided to make it the topic of her final degree project at the university. Meanwhile, unexpected news arrived from America. Ronnie contacted Paul on social media and asked him to relay that he wanted to see his daughter. He writes that he has changed, understood his mistakes, and wants to apologize to Aaliyah and thank her for the lesson, her grandfather said during a family lunch. And what did she say? Simone asked. She said she'd think about it. Aaliyah truly thought for a long time. At 19, she was already a young adult capable of making independent decisions. Mom, she finally said, I'll meet with him. Are you sure? Yes. Not to forgive or resume relations, but to get the complete data picture and definitively close this research case. What data? I want to understand if people are truly capable of learning from their mistakes. This is important for my research on human behavior change under the influence of technology. The meeting was scheduled for a neutral location, a cafe in downtown Munich. Ronnie flew from America especially for the conversation. Simone and Frederick accompanied Aaliyah to the cafe, but didn't go inside. I'll see you in an hour, Aaliyah said. That's enough time. Ronnie had changed a lot in the years since the scandal. He had grayed, lost weight, and deep wrinkles had appeared around his eyes. He dressed simply, jeans, a shirt, a jacket. He looked like a person who had undergone serious life trials and reconsidered a lot. Aaliyah arrived at the cafe exactly at the appointed time. Seeing her biological father, she felt neither pity nor joy, only the professional interest of a researcher studying her subject of analysis. Ronnie got up to meet his daughter. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Sit down, Dad, she said briefly, taking a tablet and a recorder from her bag. I have a few questions to complete the long-term investigation. Ronnie was bewildered. Sitting before him was not the 15-year-old girl he remembered, but a confident, adult scientist ready for an interview. I wanted to apologize, he began. I understand that I acted horribly. I'm sorry. For what specifically? Aaliyah interrupted, making notes on her tablet. For infidelity to your mother, for the betrayal of family values, for forcing you, at 15, to take up digital forensics. Ronnie fell silent, not knowing what to say. Do you understand what influence your behavior had on the entire family system? Aaliyah continued in a professional tone. Mom experienced severe stress and was forced to radically change her life. I prematurely faced the need to make adult decisions. Yes, I understand all of that. What exactly? Aaliyah turned on the recorder. Describe your understanding of the situation. I understood that I destroyed the most important thing in my life, my family. Out of stupidity, momentary weakness, and selfishness. I lost you. I lost Simone. I lost the right to call myself a father. What conclusions have you drawn over these years? That honesty is the basis of everything, that you can't deceive loved ones, and that every action has consequences that can destroy the lives of many people. Aaliyah wrote down his answers, occasionally asking clarifying questions. How did your life change after the publication of my analysis results? I lost everything. Business, house, reputation, friends. I had to start over in another city. I work as a simple foreman. But you know what? I deserved it. Your analysis was absolutely fair. You're not angry with me for the exposé? Angry? Ronnie looked at his daughter in surprise. On the contrary, I'm grateful. You showed me the truth about myself. Yes, it was painful, but it was just. You defended your mother using your mind and knowledge. Aaliyah nodded, continuing to write. And how is your relationship with Carissa? We stopped communicating after that. We realized that we weren't united by love, but by an illusion built on deceit. When the deceit was exposed, it turned out we had nothing to say to each other. Last question, Aaliyah said, looking at her father with an attentive gaze. What do you want from this meeting? Ronnie thought for a moment. I want you to know that I'm proud of you, of who you became, what you achieved, and how you use your skills. You became an amazing, intelligent, principled, and fair person. And this is despite the fact that I failed you as a father. And that's all. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just want you to be happy and to know that your work changed not only our family but many other people. They write about you, they study you. Your example helps others. Aaliyah turned off the recorder and closed the tablet. Data collected, analysis complete, she said, standing up from the table. And what is the conclusion? People are capable of learning from errors when the consequences are serious enough. Your case confirms the theory that technology can serve as a tool for education and behavior change. She started toward the exit, but turned in the doorway. Mr. Sterling, live honestly. That's the only way to build normal relationships with people. Aaliyah, he called out. Yes, thank you for the lesson. It was tough, but fair. Aaliyah nodded and left the cafe, leaving Ronnie alone with his thoughts and the understanding that he had lost his daughter forever, but at the same time, he had helped her become stronger. Simone and Frederick were waiting for her outside. How was the meeting? Her mother asked. Productive, Aaliyah replied. I obtained confirmation of my hypothesis that serious consequences can change a person's behavior. Dad truly understood his mistakes. And how do you feel specifically? This case no longer requires additional investigation. A year later, Aaliyah graduated with honors from the Technical University of Munich. Her final project, Ethical Technologies for Strengthening Family Relationships, caused a sensation in academic circles. Several large technology companies offered her jobs, but she chose a position as a researcher at the European Institute of Digital Ethics. Mom, she told Simone on the day of her graduation, when they were celebrating her success as a family. Now I understand why all of this happened years ago. What do you mean? Dad's betrayal, my analysis, our move, you meeting Frederick. It was a sequence of events that led us to the correct family system configuration. Simone hugged her daughter. Aaliyah had grown into a wonderful, intelligent, strong, and principled woman, capable of turning life's challenges into a source of knowledge and strength. Frederick was proud of his stepdaughter as if she were his own. He helped her secure internships at the best European research centers. He introduced her to leading specialists in artificial intelligence. You know, Frederick told Simone as they celebrated Aaliyah's success, your daughter truly changed the world. Her technology is already helping thousands of families build honest relationships. She taught people that in the age of big data, honesty is not just a moral choice, but a practical necessity, Simone added. The compatibility analysis system created by Aaliyah was implemented in several European countries as part of premarital preparation programs. People voluntarily used it to better understand each other and prevent conflicts. Meanwhile, Carissa sent Aaliyah a congratulatory card for her graduation. In it, she wrote that she was proud of her niece and that the story of her exposé had become the most important lesson of her life. Carissa really had changed. She worked at a children's center, helped troubled teenagers, and was married to a good man. Aaliyah taught me the main thing, she wrote, that lies are always exposed and honesty is the only path to happiness. Ronnie no longer attempted to contact the family. He worked at a construction company in Jacksonville. He lived modestly and solitarily. The story of the technological exposé followed him everywhere, but he no longer complained. He accepted it as the just consequence of his actions and lived honestly, as his daughter had advised him. On her 20th birthday, Aaliyah announced important news to the family. I've been offered the chance to head a new ethical artificial intelligence laboratory in Zurich. It's a joint project of universities in Switzerland, Germany, and Austria. That's a massive responsibility for your age, Simone said. I'm ready, Mom. Everything that happened to us was preparation for this moment. My experience in the practical application of data analysis in complex ethical situations is unique. I'll be researching how to create technologies that make people better, not worse. How to use artificial intelligence to strengthen families, prevent conflicts, and support honesty in relationships. Simone looked at her daughter with pride. Aaliyah had become an outstanding scientist, but at the same time, she had remained a kind and ethical person. And you know what the most important thing is about our story? Aaliyah asked. What exactly? That we didn't become bitter. We applied a scientific approach to restore justice, but we didn't lose the capacity to love and trust. You married Frederick. I found my calling. We built a new family based on honesty and mutual respect. Simone hugged her daughter and her husband. Their family was truly happy, and somewhere far away in America, her ex-husband and sister lived with the consequences of their decisions, but without rancor. Each had received just punishment and an opportunity to start life anew. Justice had triumphed through science and technology, and that was right. Did you like the story, and which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you liked the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.